Alright, going live. First live in 2026. And today I'm testing the multi-broadcast between LinkedIn and YouTube, not using the service like Stream. And I'm just using a plugin for OBS to broadcast on both LinkedIn and YouTube at the same time. Looks like it's working. Alright. Again, I don't expect anybody to be here. Half of the purpose of this live stream is for me to just talk so that I can put my thoughts together, especially for the kind of book project I'm doing slowly. And it's called 𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻. It is. I have a web page and introduction about this book project. So 𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻 is written for engineers who want to achieve financial independence through building software assets. That's what I've been doing in the last like 8 years or so, and thankfully, I've been surviving. So I thought about sharing why I started this and how I started and what's the mindset, what's the technique, and so on. And you can all read here. Of course, it's free. And so I just laid out a lot of like topics. Most of them are not written yet. In fact, I only published the first 2 chapters. The second chapter has like 3 parts. And so if you're interested, please go to 𝐷𝐸𝐿tanaka.com and you can find 𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻 link at the very bottom, right here. All right. I tend to forget if there's anybody actually happen to be watching this, and if somebody comments, I just tend to not noticing it because I'm so not used to talk live. I'm not used to talk at all, and so I can't really pay attention to both comments and focus on my topic. A good thing about live is just I have very low preparation, and I can't say this, but I think as a listener or watcher, I have like a low expectation on the quality of live, how compared to just a formal presentation. So I do the same. I just have a very minimum preparation, and then people need to. I don't care if people are watching, and like again, just like I said, half of the purpose is for me to just force me to talk, so that I can crystallize what I will be writing in the next chapter. And in fact, this is recorded, and what I'm going to do is just to transcribe what I talk here, and then with help of AI, I put together in a first draft based on what I talk, and then polish, and that's how I've been writing stuff these days. All right, and so the reason I wanted to do today is I was just thinking, oh, I need to restart my writing project because it's been a while, and so next topic will be the old risk and the new risk. And I thought about this because today I posted this post. Obviously, this is AI generated image, and based on the news that says Amazon is planning to lay off yet another 16,000 global positions in favor of using AI for higher productivity with fewer people, which is sad. This is totally AI. How do you say in Japanese? 𝐩𝐮𝐥𝐢𝐭, dystopia. Yeah, that's a word. Yes. And, the layoff used to be just with the economic cycle, but this wave of layoff, especially when like the stock market is going well, flying high, people call it like K economy, like people who are in tech, who are positioned well in tech, I would say, is their income is going higher and stock price is going higher, while rest of the world or US people is suffering with not finding good job, or wages not increasing, inflation is going on. So therefore those bottom like 80% people are now spending, and this is such a uh, AI dystopia to me, and that's the spirit of this post. And this is not, the risk is not just non-tech people, especially for tech people or people around tech. I've been hearing a lot of voices from my friends that it's so hard to just find job right now. To me, thankfully, it's been 8 years since I became independent, and I never applied job for, I don't know, gosh, like, let's see, 12. It's been 8 years since I started business, and then before that, I worked for the same company for 6 years or so, right? 6 plus 12. Oh my God, no, sorry, 6 plus, can't do that. 6 plus 8. So yeah, nearly 14, 15 years. I never applied for a job. I don't know how hard it is, and I just can't imagine how hard it is right now. Uh, and and like I said, like layoffs used to be kind of cyclical. Like when economy goes south, people get laid off. But as the economy bounces back, they'll find new job anyways. With hopefully, while they are employed, they acquire new skill, new technology, new skill, and then bounce back with the economy. But this time, stock market is flying high, GDP is flying high, and yet people are struggling. And because of the, like here, when I quote, Amazon CEO said, like last summer, that rising use of AI tools would mean more automation and duties, leading to corporate job losses. So we really need to think the career and the risk, and uh, and then that's why I wanted to do this live stream. As a person who quit being employee, except that I'm employed by my own company, and then I wanted to encourage people to own cash generating business, tech or not, uh, to diversify their career risk. And then that's that topic, right? And then the question is related to my next chapter, right? Old risk and new risk. And this is not all risk of like uh, career risk. It's more old ancient risk compared to the what we face today. So let me break it down. So again, so obviously I'm not really putting down as like form presentation, and I was just talking as I think, right? So that's the beauty of live stream. Let's see, am I still live? Yes, good. It's going. All right. So here is the something I would like to lay out. And first thing is, what's stopping you from starting a business? So, as I said, I think it's very important for people to own a business, or own a piece of business, or own a share of business, and on top of like striving to be successful as an employee. And but when yeah, so and then but what's stopping you from doing that, right? So that's the first thing. And then I will talk about like what's old risk and the new risk. And then the third thing I want to talk is how to manage risk, right? So that's pretty much what I'm going to talk in this live stream. Okay, first one. Okay, so what's stopping you from starting a business, right? So, and when I quit, startup job I used to have, I used to be employed, and then started my own consulting company. That was the year 2017, right? Yeah, and and then I kept going, and somewhat I was surviving. And first thing people would say to me was, "Oh, you're so brave." And you know, I have no problem. Like if it was in Japan, and people say, "Oh, I'm so brave." Yeah, sure, I take it. Because in Japan, it's more of the social norm to just to be employed and then work for the same company for entire career. That's for 80% of the people, most of the people that I've seen in Japan. But in US, I migrated in to the US 25 years ago. And then what was fascinating me was how quickly people switch jobs between jobs and how quickly advance their career through, switching jobs. And eventually, way more people compared to Japan, they will start their own business, either as a like raise money and create their own team, or even like me right now, just to start a one-person company. And I'm gonna write about this later, uh, but it's so easy in terms of procedure, paperwork wise, how to start a company as an entity and in this country. And so all the truths is here, or the culture of starting businesses here in US. But yet, first thing I'll be told among my friends is, "You're so brave. It's so risky. How did you do that?" And I was just, well, it's the US, right? And um, so that got me to think, what's stopping people from starting a business? And and first thing I would think about is the risk, right? And and then I think somehow in my course of my career, I reprogram the perception of risk myself. And I wonder, um, if you happen to be listening this, when you hear the word risk, what feeling you get? Like, is it positive thing or negative thing? Is it emotionally, is it fear or excitement? And if you ask me 10, 15 years ago, risk was all about negative and something I'm afraid and something you should avoid. Um, but now, after running small company for 8 years, I feel, or actually becoming 9 years in February. And anyway, so the risk is something positive, and I would consider risk with some excitement and curiosity. And so that's how I changed the perception of risk. And um, so now I want to just examine the risk. And then I read some of the books, and then I think, okay, uh, I often talk about Naval Ravikant, right? And, because especially when he did the long podcast, the How to Get Rich podcast, it's a 4 hour or more longer podcast. I've listened to many, many times. And at one point he talked about risk and uh, comparing the risk in our hunter-gatherer era, like I wrote here, and then risk of the modern world, right? And so, okay, let me break it down. So, so humans were obviously Okay, I wrote down here. It's going to be my like draft of my next chapter. So the all right. So let's see. Oh yeah, here's what I wrote. Since the hunter-gatherer era, humans have been wired to avoid risk. Our physical strength was significantly weaker than that of other animals. So we learned to collaborate to protect each other. So we learned to collaborate. That's the key, right? We learned to collaborate to protect each other. If we don't collaborate, that meant death, right? Because we're so weak alone. And then so as a result, we formed communities and we established conventions to keep the community strong, right? And then, so as the time passes, so like going against this convention we created community by community would upset the community, and then you might get kicked out, and that would have meant one's death in the hunter-gatherer era, especially, right? Okay, so that's the old risk, and so even so, like, but then this like society got so advanced and forming nation, uh, international trade, and so on, uh, and then established our like perception of human rights. And so unless and then this like convention somehow got more modernized, and people gain more freedom instead of being tied to some stigma or some local convention, right? So as long as we unless you commit crime, uh, you're a free man and free woman, uh, and so our freedom kind of expanded compared to old times when we try to protect our lives through following the convention and then protecting society, right? And um, and then if you want to, so if we compare that with modern world, so I would say all the risk is infinite in a sense that um, if you go out of the society, that could really mean your death. Either you starve or you get killed by other animals or other tribe. But right now, I don't see that risk anymore. Just by going out of convention, unless you commit crime or join some risky group and so on. And then, especially when you like try to uh, like start a business or something, that's yeah, slightly out of norm. Most people just try to get a job and then be employed and then stay as a good employee. And if you see opportunity, you just hop onto another job. And but starting new business, most people see it as a risky, but it's not as risky as what happened in the old hunter-gatherer era. So that's my point, right? And then in that sense, new risk is more, it's not life or death. It's not, it's more calculable, right? And then I would say it's more manageable, therefore, right? So, but now I think psychologically, in terms of like collective psychology wise, I think this like perception risk somehow imprinted in our brain just so deeply, passing down like generation to generation. It's very hard to change it, this program. And so, in other words, like stigma lives, but I say risk is an illusion. The risk is the old type risk is almost dead. Um, but people are seeing ghosts of risk or illusion of risk still, and therefore the stigma is fed by it, and stigma lives. So that's why people don't want to take business risk. But I would say it's not as big as you think. Therefore, especially when you're young. So I really encourage people to take business risk. So now, then, okay, how do you manage risk, right? To manage risk, you need to measure risk and then calculate the balance between risk and expected outcome, right? And so for that, I had a great training at the first industry job. And so I got PhD from Carnegie Mellon, and then first thing I did was I joined a company called 𝐩𝐮𝐥𝐢𝐭, and it's a Fortune 500 company, and uh, and they provide oil field services to the company like Exxon, Shell, and British Petroleum, and so my section was uh, characterizing the underground structure to look for oil using seismic wave. And so there, because it's and then some part involves the drilling and pumping the oil, and then it's a very heavy operation, and then we need to be really aware of safety and risk. And so all employee were just go through the training. What's called like OFS, all oil field services, OFS training back in the day, like and then so one of the things they talked about is how to calculate risk, right? And then risk equals probability times severity, right? How probable this negative event will happen, and once it happens, how severe it is. And so even if it happens often, if it's, for example, mosquito bite, like unless mosquito carries malaria or anything, and so just a regular mosquito, you just get itchy and the severity is almost none. So yeah, probably like, if you go out in the, swamp or something, and then you in summer, you probably get mosquito bite. It's very probable, but the severity is so low in usual cases in United States especially. So risk is not as high. On the other hand, like the case of like hunter-gatherer era, so if once you go out of the society, and severity would be death, which is infinity, well, in a sense, and so the risk will become infinity, right? So so you need to just measure risk, and then from that perspective, again, I'm saying that the starting business is not that big of a risk if you manage it very well, right? At the same time, you have some expected outcome, and so most businesses fail. Yeah, I mean that's for sure. That's a sad reality, but and but there are ways to increase the chance of success, raise the expected outcome, and that's what I'm also like trying to just provide to people based on my steps that worked, and also like failures I experienced. And if you know it upfront, probably you will increase the chance of success. And then also, like from severity point of view, if you are not prepared for the failure scenario, you may get um, you know much severe outcome, right? So that may involve some like financial setback and some relationship with your family, relationship with your friends, your ex-coworker, and so on. And so, like, you need to have a better management of those, like, the severity, uh, and then so that can be prevented with precaution. And also, if you carefully, you know, preview or study, and you may be able to like mitigate the negative outcome. So mitigation is another concept, right? So risk can be prevented with preparation, by reducing the probability of negative event, or risk can be mitigated. So mitigation is basically once some negative event happens, are you prepared to contain? Uh, how are you prepared to just manage the negative event? How to fix things, right? And so, yeah, like if you do that well, you would, increase the expected outcome. Uh, So by the way, so by saying expected outcome, I'm not just talking about the one outcome, but you know expectation is kind of like a range, right? In the worst case scenario, this will happen. In the best case scenario, it will happen, right? And so the anything in between is kind of expected. And so the that band of like expected outcome could be higher or lower based on how well you're prepared, right? So, right. And then most of the modern risk in starting business is just the financial risk and maybe, relationship with your family and friends. And that I didn't list here, but that's also very important. And, uh, so uh, for this is actually easy to manage, once you're well prepared. And okay, let's put it in several scenarios. So if you're just starting out, single, not married, not have children, right? And I think it's just no brainer to me. Like it's just to go ahead, and if you have some business idea, just to go in and then do it, and fail, and you have nothing to lose. Especially if you have like still have parents, and you can just stay with parents for a while, and then just bounce back, and then take another job for a while, and then before starting new idea. And 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 then the reason I say that is that the experience and learning from starting business so high, and very condensedly packed learning material that will make you like a really wise man as long as you have attitude to learn, right? And so that's why I would say like do it. But once you have like your family to feed, or you have a partner and you have children to feed, and then it will start dramatically changing how I make advice to those people, because your top priority, if your husband, is to keep your wife happy, and also if you have children, and especially if you are just the only working spouse, your responsibility to be able to feed them. So risk is both on the communication with your partner, also like risk is on like a more financial side. And so that takes some preparation, but it's all about number. Remember, like 5 minutes ago, I talked. New risk is more calculable and manageable, and it's not life or death if you are financially prepared, or if you're prepared for some negative financial outcome, right? So the way I learned this is through investment. So when you work hard and earn money, and you are very thrift, and you would save a portion of your earning for your future use, retirement, or childcare, and so on, for the rainy day. And you don't just park your money in a saving account, right? Because if you believe in human collective effort to make our life better, you would make your money work by investing and mostly on stock market, right? And so when I started investing in stock market, eventually I learned that how much risk I can tolerate, because stock goes up and down, right? And so the idea is that you need to have uh, enough saving in. Still, you need to have enough saving in a saving account. Like so, like if you have like half year, 1 year of saving as a buffer in case of like a rainy day. Rest, uh, you can start investing on like stock market, real estate, and so on. And when you do, you don't just put 100% of your investment money into Nvidia. Like it's just so risky. You need to diversify, right? And but if you just diversify too finely, it's not manageable. It's just the same as buying one SP 500 index and then just to go with the middle. That's fine too. But if you have particularly like interesting investment idea, what you do is to calculate how much money you want to invest in this investment thesis, right? And the way you decide is that you think about the worst case scenario. How much money you would lose if you invest in this at worst. And if it is like, for example, like startup investment, you might lose all, right? So in my case, my rule is that if I invest in startup, uh, I wouldn't risk more than 2% of my entire capital, right? And so if the startup become nothing, I'll lose only 2% of my money, right? And that can be bounced back by other like an investment or just my business earning. But if I risk too much, uh, first it is stress to lose so much money. Second, I may actually risk really like my financial being. I may not be able to feed my family. I may be in debt, and that's not good. So you need to know how much to invest, and then that's how I learn. Like kind of like a one lot per investment idea, right? And so like okay, another example is that if I just invest in some blue chip, I expect the fluctuation of stock market to be a certain way, and so like okay, I probably would not expect it to the stock market this particular stock to go down by 30%, and so like like okay, in this thesis it shouldn't go below 10%. So if it goes below 10%, my thesis is broken. Therefore, I will sell the stock and then take the loss and then start over. So this 10% is uh, translated into how many dollar amount, and then that's how much I can invest in one stock idea. If you keep repeating this, you get the sense that how much money you can just expose to the risk. And this is so sorry, this just got long, but this is the basis for how and when you can start business. And so instead of like investing in stock market, you use the same money to prepare your business, right? And um, in my case, especially if you're working for tech, I will suggest the business that you can start with zero capital. That means that the money you set aside for this investment is basically the money you can just feed your family in the next 6 months or 1 year, and so that's also your runway. And if you run out of money, okay, your thesis or your execution was broken. So You need to go back to actual job and start over uh, until you have better idea, you have better skill, you have better discipline to actually run business. But even if you fail, you learn something as long as you have good attitude, and then next time around you have better chance of becoming successful. That's how it works to me, at least. And luckily for me, although I had no like prior like business experience, sales experience, I only had like engineering experience at startup. Like I started with this mindset, this approach, and then uh, you know, and then my wife agreed that within 3 months, if I don't get any lead, maybe I should start considering, uh, like a plan B, like which is to just to try looking for other business, other like employment, and so and then we had like 6 months beyond like a saving. We could just manage this opportunity endeavor, right? And luckily, to me, like I found my first client, two clients, and within 2 months, with help of my good friends, and so and then after that, I could keep going. Of course, in 8 years there was ups and downs, and eventually I found my way to stabilize my business income. And at the same time, I was just increasing the time flexibility, and I stopped, I kind of like decreasing the time myself. Now I stopped charging clients with just time, but first as project delivery, price it and then sell it. And then second, I just created automation service, especially around data engineering. And so that, as long as this system is working and delivering the clients what they want, I get paid because of the system I created. So that leads to the concept owning a cash flow generating asset, right? And I started as consultant. That's basically selling your time. But after um, realizing some of the common problems, and I thought about how to automate the solution, and then it worked, and my customers are paying for this solution, whether or not whether no matter how much or how few hours I've been spending on it. Actually, as long as they're content, they'll pay. And so that's the cash flow generating asset, right? So, and of course it takes some maintenance, but maintenance is not as time consuming as doing some full consulting work. And so I'm proudly owning this piece of business that I built. And um, so going back to the today's post, it's like we need to kind of rethink the risks in our career. Risks. What did I write? So basically, so trying to future-proof yourself with technical skills alone is losing game. That's what I wrote. Right. The shelf life of specialized knowledge is shrinking fast. So only way for us, before only way for us to, have job security, financial security is to keep in a tech, keep acquiring new skill, be useful, and so on. Now with AI, it's a losing game, in many functions. Not all, and not all aspects, but certainly there are fewer seats available. There will be fewer seats, and company is trying to be lean, leverage AI, and run the company with much fewer people. And they're kind of seeing the success. So that's why they're more confident in cutting off people. And so the winner will be the owner of the very efficient business, right? And then so not just future proofing by acquiring new skill, we should uh, try owning a business. And in the past, I mentioned about like, okay, maybe that even if you don't build your own business, you could buy a piece of business by owning some stocks that's growing or generating good cash flow earnings. And so uh, that's probably it. What I wanted to talk today. And so just to recap, um, I was wondering what's stopping people from starting a business. The word is it's risky, and the way I changed the perception of risk, right? And then between old risk and new risk, and the old risk is based on our mindset. During the hunter-gatherer era, humans were so weak compared to other animals, and therefore we needed to unite to form society. And as a society, we needed to abide by rules, and anything going against this rule will result in being kicked out of society. In the hunter-gatherer era, that could mean death. Therefore, risk was infinite. But now, in modern era, game is different, right? And in terms of like one's career or economy, this perceived risk is way too bigger than actual the size of the risk. And so people are living in stigma. Uh, the stigma lives, but risk is an illusion. It's not alive anymore. It's a ghost. And therefore you should really like take up your courage and go out to just test your idea as a businessman or businesswoman. Right? Business, that's not a good word. Business person. Uh, and then, and, um, and then, but you need to be aware of risk. The good news is risk is more calculable compared to olden times. And so mostly the risk by not communicating well with your family member and also like financial risk. And then both of them you can manage. And by managing better in terms of prevention and mitigation, you can raise the expected outcome, right? And now especially financial risk, by doing some investment on the stock market, for example, you can learn what the size of the investment you're suitable for yourself, and that's well translate into the capital required for your new business, right? So if you have some one investment idea and you would buy certain stock, why not just use the same amount of money to start your own business? That's the idea. That's how you kind of like manage overcome the fear of starting new business. It's just the investment, right? And lastly, and so with AI, it's just the future proofing yourself by acquiring new skill. Maybe already a losing game. And yes, in the short term, so we need to think, okay, I need to mention here, we need to think about short term and long term opportunity cost, right? Especially when you're young, if you just try to focus on just being a good employee and then just climb up the corporate ladder, short term or even mid term, you may be okay until you get laid off or something. And, long term, it's really about owning the piece of company which is generating cash efficiently. And so the skill to own good business, the skill to build good business is a long-term strategy. And if you just focus on short-term promotion, skill raise, and so on, you may not be paying attention enough for your long-term opportunity cost. You should really think about what if I don't work for this company, and what if nobody is hiring me? What would I do? How can I make my living? Not necessarily, in using up my time, spending my time, but by, owning a business. So that's the thing, I wanted to just talk about, and it's been 45 minutes. I think it's a good stopping point. I think this is a good recording. Again, so what I'm doing is that I'm writing, I have this book project, and sometime, or probably all the time, that I first need to talk, because all these good ideas I have in my brain is kind of very, very vague and, covered with fog until I write down or talk. And then talking is easier than writing, especially when you don't have expectation of talking well like this. And luckily, if once I talk and record it, and I found, especially through my baby OmniCreator, and I'll show you a little bit. So OmniCreator, you can record your voice like this, and then OmniCreator will automatically transcribe your voice, and then with a push of button, it will convert your voice memo into LinkedIn post. And today I'm not using OmniCreator's feature because it's such a long talk. But what I'm going to do is I use the same mechanism to transcribe what I have just recorded today, and then just create the first draft of my this next chapter in the Rich Dad Engineer book project. And then I will, of course, that with AI, that's not going to be ready. And then, sometimes AI produces much better writing than I do as a Japanese person. But most of the times I need to really polish so that it will really reflect my style, my way of thinking, and so on. So, but at least when you have draft like that, it's much easier to work on your writing than just staring at blank screen. So that's also the idea about the creating OmniCreator's voice to post feature. If you're curious, please try by going to www.omnicreator.club, which is this omnicreator.club.club. And also I put the promotion link with this live stream too. So if you click the link, you get 30 days free. Awesome. All right, I think this is enough. And thank you. I saw somebody stopping by. Next time, please consider leaving some comment of encouragement. But that's okay. I really appreciate you stop by, whoever it was. I will check later. And that's it. And just remember this picture. There's a Grim Reaper is coming to you. And so please consider starting your business. But you cannot fire yourself until you give up. All right, that's all. Bye.